Hey mages, welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about budget decks. I've got three really cool paper budget decks for you and they are all under £5. Super cheap, with some of the deck, well, the last deck coming in at under £2. So, you know, very cheap decks. These are great decks if you mainly just play Arena and you haven't got much of a card collection, but thinking about wanting to play in paper. Go into your LGS, with Standard now being, you know, lengthened to the, I think it's a 3-year rotation now. Hopefully Standard will pick up again in LGSs. That would be really good if that is the result from this, that people get more interested in Standard and want to play it. So it could bring in new players, beginner players, and yeah, I've got 3 decks for you, which will be great. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but it will get dip your toes into paper Standard. So without further ado, we're going to go and take a look at the decks. Now, with all the prices from the decks, these are all from Cardmarket. If you want to support the channel, there's a link down below. You can just go and check them out and take a look at the cards and maybe pick up some for yourselves. But let's take a look at the first deck. So the first deck I've got for you comes in at a total price of £3.34. This is a Boros Heroic deck. Now, if you don't know what Heroic is a creature ability that triggers when the creature is targeted by a spell that its controller casts. Heroic trigger usually gives the creatures, you know, stuff like 1/1 counters, or there's a benefit of it. But that is basically what it is. You were pumping up creatures and then hopefully getting in for a big swing attack. Now, this deck has 16 creatures in total, has a CMC average of 1.4, so pretty low. We have 10 instant cards, 8 sorceries, 4 enchantments, and 22 lands for these decks. So let's take a look at the creatures first of all. So the first creature we're going to look at is a very popular one. It's Monastery Swiftspear. So this has haste and prowess. Prowess is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/1 until end of turn. This has been a great addition back into Standard and is very popular in, you know, mono red decks. Anything that wants to play spells as well as creatures as well is a very aggressive card, and it's good for a brilliant, well, not good, it's brilliant for a turn 1 play. It just really is. And next creature we got in the deck is Illuminator Virtuoso. Now, this has connive, so to have a creature connive, you draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. So we're going to have spells that can obviously build this up and trigger the connive. It also has double strike, so double strike, both first strike, regular damage as well. It's really good that you can maybe put a bit of trample on this and get over for the win as well, because this card can win games on its own. Next creature in the deck, as a 4-of as well, is Electrostatic Infantry. This one does have trample. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. Comes in with a 1/2 stats. It's a you know, when you get your turn 1 play with your Swiftspear, you got your turn 2 play hopefully with an Infantry or Virtuoso. You're amassing that board, ready then to play your spells and get that heroic triggers going. New to Standard as well, Khenra Spellspear. Trample, prowess. For 2 mana, when you think how good Monastery Swiftspear is with the haste and trample, this for 1 extra mana has an extra point of power and toughness. It's a 2/2 and has trample and prowess. The trample is obviously very good because we're playing little creatures, like I said, and then you want to go over and get that damage in. Now, we don't play blue in the deck, so you're going to have to play 3 and Phyrexia mana to transform it. But when you do, it turns into Gitaxian Spellstalker. Trample, Ward 2. Ward makes it harder to target for opponents to kill. They have to pay an extra 2 mana. Then it has double prowess. So prowess. So if you play a card like Homestead Courage, puts a 1/1 counter on target creature in control, it gains vigilance until end of turn, and this is flipped, you know, the Spellstalker, you would then do prowess, give it another counter, prowess again, then put the counter on from Homestead Courage as well. It would have trample and vigilance as well. It's such a beater. If you can flip this over turn 3, it really does turn into a massive win con for the deck. So looking into further spells into the deck, we've got cards like I just spoke about, Homestead Courage in there as a 4 of. We've also got Lauren's Escape because we want to protect our creatures. So Lauren's Escape, target artifact or creature gains hexproof and indestructible to end of turn. This is all 4 of these. Mainly all the deck apart from one card is 4 of, so very easily to put together hopefully. Surge of Salvation, you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. So more 1 mana protection for our creatures, which is what we want. We have so much removal in standard, we need to protect these beaters down. Now, Ancestral Anger gives target creature trample and gets +6/+0 to end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of these in your graveyard. But the cool thing is, for that 1 mana, you get to draw a card as well. And obviously, this triggers prowess. And if we got, Khenra down, or if we got like the infantry down, the infantry will just be that cast trigger, and that 1/1 counter stays on the creature. Whereas prowess obviously will go at the end of turn. Also in the deck, Kumano. See this very regularly in mono red decks. It's just a really cool little enchantment for 1 mana, comes down, does a 1 bit of damage. You're starting off the damage there, and then can make your next creature spell that you cast with the lore counter 2 come in with the counter. So like we spoke about the creatures, the Swiftspear can come in as a 2/3. What I try and save it for is maybe something like the Virtuoso, because that was our creature that had double strike, and a 2/2 double strike is pretty strong. Now, the only card in the deck that we just have a 2 of is Angelic Intervention. Target creature or planes you control gains protection from colours or a colour, and you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. So just in there as an extra bit of protection, like I spoke about, we got the Lauren in here, the Surge of Salvation, and the Angelic. All of these will trigger prowess and hopefully keep you away from the damage as well, which is what you want to be doing. You want to be keeping these creatures alive. Maybe if, opponents flashing in a big creature, or you just want to try and get the creature through. There might be a bigger creature on opponent's board, but you've got these spells in hand that can make yours bigger. You attack him with a smaller power. Sometimes they just won't block because they think, well, maybe I don't want to lose my creature, but then you might be able to put enough counters on the deck to on the creature to actually win a game by piling off some protection spells or something like that. Now, the land base for this is sweet and easy. 22, 11 basics of plain, and 11 basic mountains as well. We don't really want tapped lands on this one because it's very aggressive and aggro, and we want to be playing our 1-drop Kumano monasteries straight away, and obviously the turn 2 creatures potentially as well. Now, these are all best of 3 decks as well, so there are sideboards that when you go and see the decks down in the description, you'll see the sideboard I put together. But I want to talk about, obviously, mainly about the main deck, and sideboards, although they are included in the price, I will say as well. So that there, the £3.34 of this deck includes the sideboard I put together. But you might want to change the sideboard because you might play different decks in all your different LGSs. Generally what people play, so your sideboard could be different, tech for those kind of things. But you can go and look at the sideboards down below. But this is the first deck, Boros Heroic. Now let's get on to the next budget paper deck. So the next deck we're looking at comes in at a really cheap £2.98, and that is including the sideboard as well. It's Orzhov Mid-Range. Now, we have a plethora of cards in this one. This is not like the Boros Heroic where it's 4 of, 4 of, 4 of, 4 of. Here we are using a lot of different cards. There's a different way to build a deck. It's like a toolbox kind of deck. So it gives you, lots of different answers potentially to different problems that you might come up with the, opponents that you may face. But first of all, we're going to look at the stats of this deck. So we have 20 creatures, 16 non-creature spells, a CMC average of 3.5. So quite a bit higher, which is why we run 24 lands in this. We also have 12 enchantments, 8 artifacts, 4 sorceries, and we have 20 creatures in this deck. So this Orzhov mid-range deck has lots of different synergies and interactions. We have a plethora of different kinds of removal as well, and some really nice powerhouse creatures to get the job done. So first of all, we're going to have a look at one of the most... It's funny that this card was more expensive than I thought it was. There's a common card called Spirited Companion. Now, we play 3 of these. It's a 1/1, so sacrificial blocker, great in there because it enters the battlefield and you draw a card. So it does, though, more than you thought. And although still very cheap at 12 pence, you know, a lot of the cards in all these decks are basically around 2 pence, which makes them super budget, but you can still get power cards in budget. But yeah, this one just surprised me of how dear it was, but it's probably because it's just so popularly played in you know, quite a few meta decks, enchantments and stuff like that. The next creature card we have in there is Nezumi Bladeblesser. 3/2 has Death Touch as long as you control an artifact, and Menace as long as you control an enchantment. Now, we do have artifacts in the deck, and we have enchantment removal. So this for 3 mana can potentially become a 3 mana Death Touch Menace creature, which makes it quite awkward, and it acts as a bit of removal because not many people want to attack into a Death Touch, really, unless it's with a little 1/1. They just want to peck away at your life total. But something big, they definitely might think twice about it. Now we have this cool rare in it, Shakedown Heavy. Shakedown Heavy, 6/4 with Menace. So a lot of the time, you can read the text in it. It attacks. Defending player may have you draw a card. If they do, you untap it. You remove it from combat. So if they don't want to be smacked with the big Ogre Warrior, the upside of this card is that you actually draw a card. So, you know, Shakedown Heavy, and this is going for 2 pence, this card. It's really cool. It plays in some mono black decks, and I feel like for this mid-range deck, it could be a beta or will help us draw cards. So that is why we put it straight into the deck. Then we have Circuit Mender, a favourite of mine, because it just screens value. It's colourless, easy to play with any of our lands. Enters the battlefield, gains you a bit of life, helps you against some of those aggro decks, and when it leaves the battle after it's done its duty, you get to draw a card as well. So gives us help with drawing cards and going through our deck and finding what we need, maybe what removal or, you know, anything like that. Cameo of Terrible Secrets, ends the battlefield if you control an artifact or enchantment, draw a card, and you gain 1 life as well. So with the amount of artifacts and obviously enchantments in the deck, we've got a good chance of hitting this, but it's in there just as a 2 of and has nice stats as a 3/4. So nice bit of, you know, nice stats for that 3 or 4 mana card. Then we go on to some of our more powerful win con type of creatures. Boon-Bringer Valkyrie, 4/4 flying first strike lifelink, has backup 1. So backup 1 is you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature, then it gains all the abilities of this. So potentially if you add the cameo on there or a Shakedown Heavy or anything like that, you could then give it flying first strike lifelink as well. If you don't, this is just a great standoff creature on its own. A very, very budget card, around 9 pence when I put this deck together, and it's just, you know, all in all, a really good rare and was definitely one of my favourites from that set. Naomi, Pillar of Order. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control an artifact or enchantment, you can see the theme of this mid-range deck. We need our artifacts and enchantments on there to get value. So this will create a 2/2 samurai token whenever it has those actions on there. And it's still a 4/4 for 5 mana, so very good in there as a 2 of. Then we have a single of Liesa, Forgotten Archangel. Lifelink 4/5. Whenever a non-token you control dies, return the card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature opponent would die, exile it instead, which is good because, you know, with all the graveyard shenanigans going on, Liesa can definitely help a little bit with that. And yeah, I do love this card. It's the dearest card in the deck, £1.18. So if you want to go a little bit above the budget what I've spent on this, you could possibly put a second one of those in there if you would like. Last creature, Combat Thresher. We can either play this for this prototype, so it's a 1/1 double striker, or we play it late game for the 7 mana, becomes a 3/3 double strike. But when it enters, either way, we get to draw a card as well. So we have lots of creatures coming in and different types of things when they die and everything like that. We get to draw cards. So hopefully we will be able to go through our deck with this. Now let's get on to the rest of the deck. So let's have a look at some of the artifacts. We've got a 2 of Citizen Crowbar in there. Can make a creature when it comes in. You attach it. You can pay 1, sacrifice it, destroy artifact or enchantment, and then it has the equip 2 again, so we'll be able to replay it. Just really good. Generates another body on the board as well, and then has a bit more removal that we could potentially use in the deck. Ossification, we do run 15 basic lands, so this should be easily triggered. Helps against planeswalkers mainly, which is really, really, you know, helpful for a budget deck to have a cheap option like Ossification that can come in and do that. Next piece of removal, we do have a lot in the deck. Banishing Slash, destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or tapped creature. Then if you control the artifact enchantment, which is the theme of the deck, we create another one of those samurai tokens. So we basically want, some of these spells you do want to be holding back if you can to have the artifact enchantments on the field. Restoration of Eiganjo is a single of in the deck. Search over basic planes helps you, get your mana fixing right. Then you may discard a card, return permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. We have the Citizen Crowbar, like I spoke about, Spirited Companion that can potentially come back and draw a card as well. And this will turn into a potential token producer when it goes to Architect of Restoration and can help swarm the board as well. Even more removal, Touch the Spirit Realm. This can act as a bit of protection though, because you can play Channel, exile an artifact creature, then return it to the battlefield. So if you've got anything like I spoke about the Circuit Mender, you can then re-enter that, gain some more life. There's potential with the Spirited Companion to draw cards and everything like that. Boon-Bringer that I spoke about, get in there, flash it back in, get the backup back on. There's lots of stuff that you can do with Touch the Spirit Realm, and not just, blinking our creatures can be really good. Soul Transfer as a one-of. Nice rare, sorcery speed. If you control an artifact or enchantment, you may cast a spell. You can choose both. So very on theme with the deck. And then we can potentially exile creature, planeswalker, or return something from the graveyard. So get back maybe our Boon-Bringer or Liesa. Good ways to recur Liesa in this deck. Going to the last few spells, like I said, this is a bit of a toolbox type of deck against all odds. Choose one of both. More removal, exile artifact or creature you control, return it, so we can blink Liesa, we can blink anything that I spoke about there and get the value of card draw, life gain potential, stuff like that. Or return target artifact or creature card, mana value 3 or less, graveyard to the battlefield, and we've got plenty of them as well. Static Neck, bit more removal. Just for a change. Exile target non-land permanent. When it ends battlefield, you gain 2 life and you create a tap Power Stone. Those Power Stones can only cast non-artifact. They can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. But we got Citizen's Crowbar in there, the Circuit Mender, the Combat Thresher as well, so helps with that a little bit. So still plenty of ways to use those Power Stones, including the last card, which is Mysterious Limousine, a 4/4. Ends battlefield, attacks, exile up to 1 target creature until that leaves the battlefield. When it puts into exile this way, return each other card exile with it. So be careful when you're doing this. When it, you will give the other one back. So, Limousine, still great. Crew 2, which is really low for a sweet 4/4. So, land base. Like I said, plains, swamps, 15. Then we have tap land, Scoured Barrens that can gain you a bit of life. And then a Sunlit Marsh, 4 of them as well. And just a single Roadside Reliquary that works on the theme of an artifact and enchantment. In the deck, we could pay 2, sack it, potentially draw 2 cards. Now, this is a really, really fun deck to play. You potentially have answers for a lot of problems that you may come up with. It has late game power, flyers, everything like that. So you've got the evasion. We have recursion and plenty of synergy with artifacts, enchantments that can help us draw cards and do various other shenanigans. Orzhov Mid-range, this whole deck, including the sideboard that I put together, you'll see down below, £2.98, under £3. So that is very, very cheap. And even if you do all your conversion rates, whatever country you're in, this is still going to be a very cheap deck. Now we go to the final deck, and this comes in at a whopping £1.94, including the sideboard as well. Now, it's a mono red oil deck, and it should be called One Drop of Oil, because every single card in the main board is a 1-drop. It is an absolutely weird configuration of a deck that just bases around a CMC of 1.0. Now, we still have 20 lands because the sideboard has some 3 mana cards, 2 mana cards, so a little bit different. So we're still, we're not going to go 17, 18 land. We've got 20 land because, you need the sideboard coming in. It has 24 creatures, 16 non-creature spells. So it has 4 sorceries, 12 artifacts, 4 enchantments, and then 24 creatures, like I just said. So lots of creatures, and the idea of this deck is like a mono red aggro deck, but using the base of oil counters. And we're going to look at the first creature on the board, which is Cacophony Scamp. Deals combat damage to a player, you may sack it. If you do proliferate, get more oil counters. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. A great card. I've come across this. It's killed me. People have pumped this up, and then it's just basically just watched me and just completely, won the game. You think this little innocuous 1/1, maybe can't do much, but it really, really can. Next creature that we have in the deck is Exuberant Fuseling. Now, every card in this is a 4-of. Very easy, hopefully if you're picking these up, maybe over on Cardmarket, you just find the cheapest play sets or anything like that. But apart from, I think, one card, every card was 2 pence. So very cheap, and obviously, hopefully, easier to pick up as well, being that you need 4-ofs of just all these cards. So Exuberant Fuseling is a 0/1, has Trample, gets +1/0. For each oil counter on it. So you want to be getting your oil counters on this and then trampling over your opponent. And this is a really good card for uncommon. When it ends a battlefield and whenever another creature artifact you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, that's the way you get an oil counter on this card. Very nice. Falcon Wrath Pit Fighter is the next one. This is a rare. Very, interesting card for a 1-drop. You get higher stats, you get 2/1, you can pay 2, discard a card, sacrifice a vampire, draw 2 cards, and obviously it's a vampire, it's not another vampire, so it can sack itself if you need to, but you can only activate it if an opponent lost life this turn. But with this aggro type of deck, we've got plenty of ways to make our opponents lose life. We then have Simian Sling, which is a 1/1 for 1, has Reconfigure. Now, Reconfigure is where you attach to a target creature you control or unattached from a creature. You can refigure only as a sorcery while attached to this. So you can basically put this equipped creature and give it +1/1. When Sling or equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to a defending player. So another way to do damage as well, like we needed for the Falcon Wrath. Next creature is Unlucky Witness, where this is a 1/1 for 1. When it dies, exile the top 2 cards of your library until your next end step. You can play one of those cards. So you only get to play 1, but still for a 1-drop, this is a good way for, going through your library and then basically hopefully getting to what you need for that particular moment and drawing cards and playing cards when this dies is a cool effect. You can put it in there, block something big that's coming at you, but then at least you get an effect after it does die as well. So the last creature is a popular one. It's Monastery Swiftspear. Haze Prowess can get that early bit of damage in as well. And obviously with the non-creature spells, this is just another way to get the damage in as well. And it's, for this type of aggressive 1-drop deck, there isn't many 1-drop creatures that are better than Monastery Swiftspear, to be honest. So now we're going to go on to the spells. First off, looking at the 4 of Churning Reservoir. Beginning your upkeep, put an oil counter on another target non-token artifact or creature you control, which is what we want to be doing, like with the Scamp I spoke about. And then 2, you can create a 1/1 Goblin creature token. Activate only if an oil counter was removed from a permanent you control this turn, or a permanent with a oil counter was put into the graveyard this turn. So potentially has ways that you can make more creatures as well. But this is great for building up your oil counters on your creatures. We then have End the Festivities in there. 1 damage, clears those early blockers of, 1-drops or, token decks or anything like that are putting in there. We need to be keeping the battlefield clear for our creatures to get through. We then have a 4 of Experimental Synthesizer. Ends the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, exile the top card of your library, and then you may play that card until end of turn. So whenever this enters or leaves, because it has a sacrificial thing where you make a 2/2 token, but it is sorcery speed, so don't think you can do it in opponent's turn. You pay 3, it will leave, you'll exile that card, but then you'll also get a sweet 2/2 token as well, which is, pretty sweet. And then we have Kumanu. Spoke about this. It's a really good 1-drop, 1 damage to each opponent. Gives something a counter if you've got a creature potentially coming in turn 2, when you can play this turn 1, the Swiftspear or maybe the Cacophony or anything like that. We've got plenty of 1-drops, and then this obviously turns into a creature that's pretty sweet and then can just attack in, and then if anything dies with that, obviously you can put it into exile. I spoke about the Simian Sling. So other than that, it's 20 mountains in this deck. This deck is very easily played. It's lots of 1-drops. You're basically just trying to amass the board, win quick with this deck, because the late game Not there. We haven't got 2 drops, 3 drops. Unless you go to the sideboard, it literally is amassing that board and getting the quick wins as you can. But very, very interesting deck. I've never made a deck with all 1 drops before. So this is very interesting. 1 drop of oil is this deck, and coming in at £1.94. So that was 3 super budget paper decks for you. Great for new players, like I say. Great for beginners. Great if you just play Arena and want to put some paper decks together to go and have some fun with. You know, they are good. You might win the odd game against a top meta deck when you go there, but this is a good deck for you to start with. Potentially you might want to upgrade them or anything like that. You know, wasn't talking about upgrades today, but you know, if you want to put some stuff in the comments, I could perhaps give you some ideas of ways you can upgrade that. Usually that starts with the lands. But these are just, you know, beginner decks for you to go in there and have a bit of fun with. And yeah, maybe you will pick up. I mean, the Boros Heroic deck to me, I think can compete with quite a few decks. It will get you some wins as well against some, you know, some harder decks. But, you know, normally the power is in you know, your mono black decks and everything like that. But these can sneak you some wins, and great to play, and just something different to play if you're bored of playing what you do already. This gives you some cheap options to go and build something else. So I just want to say thanks for taking the time to watch the video today. Let me know what you think of this. This is another new type of video I'm doing, and if you want to support me, yeah, I could really appreciate the likes. It does help out circulate the videos. Leaving me a comment. If you're still here at the end, you're an absolute legend. And supporting me by just going to check out my sponsors in the pinned link below. Even if you just go and click on there and go and take a look, it's all traffic to the site, and that would really help support more than you would know. So I just want to say thank you, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next video.